Hello there, Azer here, back again with another video. A lot of people keep asking how, about what is NGS and is NGS dying, and it's actually a trash game or whatnot. But then they never ask about how to fix NGS, and yeah, I'm going to actually list them down then. The ways that you can probably salvage NGS out of nothing, I guess. Now, sure, the Lasil quest is pretty good. Let's not beat around the bush. It's actually the probably one of the best contents that you can ever get, like in the recent releases. And yeah, it's good, but I think it's a bit too late, maybe. So let's just list other things that maybe they can improve upon because it's been probably 2 years now. I don't know how can players actually wait for another year again for the game to become better. But maybe by time they can actually improve their timeline by incorporating changes that are related to this. But everything is just my own opinion, and don't really need to actually put it into like you need to definitely do this. But it's just a suggestion that I've actually thought about as a player who has just played NGS like since the launch, I guess. Oh, hello there. I mean, hey, nice new area here. Okay, I guess it's time for a nap, huh? But number one, I think the one of the main problems that I think is going on here is that don't waste the open fields. Like, okay, so we have these four regions here, right? The Alio, Bretam, and Quaris and Stia. I think since the player like the instances, you would think that the player would don't really care about all this open field stuff, right? Wrong. Actually, if you are able to add in a lot more activities in these open fields, like for example, maybe add some several NPCs doing their own day job out there and hear about, and maybe if there's some secret events that's going to happen only at nighttime, or maybe some bonus events that's going on when there's a storm, or maybe some events that's going to happen only on the clear days and stuff like that. Do you know how much variety you can actually do in the open field that's large as that? Especially when the open field have a lot of like buildings there and stuff like that. Like come on, man. Like we have many episodes what that shows that the NPC can actually, somehow reach to those areas without getting hurt or something. So like if they are able to reach to the peak of mountains and the edge of a cliff, why don't you just put some side quests? There are like NPCs that are heading out there. Maybe they wanted to find something nearby, but then they require your help. Maybe there's some secrets you can uncover by talking with the certain NPCs in the shade. Maybe there are some certain critters that requires your help or something. Maybe you had to save those critters by a fun mini little game or something. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand people who are probably like going to complain about, oh, if all the NPCs are out in the open fields, then it'll be pretty hard to accept all these side quests. Side quests, right? Well, I mean, these don't really need to be like the side quests. They are similar to the NPCs inside the town. The town NPCs can be just there. But what I just wanted to wish for is basically the NGS team to add in more flair. Like add in just something to spice up the open fields. Because I don't really think the open fields are that bad, especially if in terms of like the visual elements and the environment detail and the weather effects. They are all just for waste at this point because nobody goes out into these open fields unless they want to collect and gather materials or get some alpha reactors here and there. It's becoming like a dead content that I think it's such a wasted potential if they don't really fix this, especially since they have advertised the open field whatever thing in their recently released like trailer on for version 2, which I think is not warranted, because if you were to play the open field today, it's going to be the same thing before version 2. There's nothing changed in the open field. So I really want them to do that. That's the first topic. Oh yeah, this is pretty good. Oh, okay. Another thing about how to fix the game is to fix your coding, employ more development teams, increase the speed of the content outflow, because for now I think PSO2 New Genesis is completed their first chapter and it requires like 2 years. That is too slow. When I heard about the interviews about the developers actually had staying about like, oh, we need to 3 months, 6 months, or even a year to develop a content, that is really, really bad, in my opinion. That means if they are working on something, they cannot stop. And if they actually decided to just backpedal at it, or if the new idea that they implemented the game is very, very bad, then suddenly, everybody just abandoned that idea and they just put it in the back burner. And then that means the whole time they are developing this one specific content for 3 months or 6 months is now being shafted. Great examples that I wanted to talk about is all the rest of the content inquiries. Nobody hunts for Blizzardiums. Nobody cares about the Ancients anymore. Nobody cares about the Gorge mechanic, because, they hyped it out, but nobody cares because it's just pointless to do it anymore. These things actually could be fixed, you know that? It's not like these things are going to be staying as dead content if they update these contents. The Geometric Labyrinth can still be salvaged if you transform it into a Lucille-like quest, but maybe is a much more close and much more direct version of it instead of like the one that we get in Lucille. Because, like, come on, man, that whole pyramid thing is pretty cool. You can make like a whole new dungeon inside it anyways, because it is an instance thing, But if they cannot achieve it, and they need like, I don't know, 2 years for them to actually release something that's called the Lucille Standing Quest, which is probably the best content so far. And even with this content, it's still going to bore a player out, bore a certain player still. Because what we wanted is just things to do, things to play in the game when you are able to, get the game when you have free time. It's not like just, oh, we just enter the game and just do some dailies. Sure, some people who are very busy, they might like the casual aspect of the game, but please, there are a lot of core players who are sticking in the game, and they are just, AFK for the most part because they have nothing else to do after they get the end game stuff, right? So that is an issue. Maybe, sprinkle a lot more rewards that are much more exclusive in terms of like how to obtain them. Like, you already did put in a lot of weapon camos into the trainers. I really appreciate those, but the problem is not everybody is going to want to do that, because only the hardcore and the PSO fans are going to probably get all those ancient legacy camos, I guess. But for the most part, they're probably going to just use the Meseta to just buy them off the personal shop. It's still not really a good incentive for them to explore all these side contents in the game yet. So just, improve the coding of the game. I mean, I think the game has a huge potential. It's just that I don't understand why they're delaying it. Maybe they really, really needed like the help from veteran coders or veteran developers from back when they actually developed like base PSO2 to help and assist, so that they can get back that passion that you've seen back in base PSO2. Now I know Guiz of the Star said that like, okay, they see the passion in the developers coming back again and when they are meeting, when they are actually showcasing the whole plans of like the version 2 content. I really do hope that is true, and that's a true statement, and this is why I'm actually reminding them that the game really needs a lot of work in order for them to even create a proper live service game. Now, sure, I doubt money is an issue, especially if players are still scratching hundreds of dollars every single time when there's a new collab that is coming out. Come on, guys, you know the collab contents are very expensive, right? Why are you just burning your money if you want the game to be much better than this? Invest those money into the gameplay element, okay? Because I think the social features in this game is already excellent. If you improve the gameplay stuff, well, it'll be even better. I guess that's is it the second or the third point? Never mind. And last but not least, it add in a fishing mechanic game mini game, I guess, because I if I'm not wrong, most of the good games usually have fishing games. I don't understand why, but even Sonic Frontier has a fishing mini game. Even Hollow here has a fishing mini game now with the new patch. And then New Genesis is like, there's no fishing here. You can do a fishing emote, but there's no fish. Like, come on, guys. Maybe add in some elements of mini games for us to ease up our ways of actually farming seafood from different regions, just fishing, for example, because that will probably ease up a lot of people's like frustrations of like, oh, I need to go to this area at this specific time in the open field in order to get this specific seafood, which is like, it just gets boring every time you have to do the same routine again and again. But you know, when you are fishing, however, you have a chance to maybe get 2 or even higher numbers of amount of them. So it actually makes it's like a very nice little social event for players to hang out and just do their dailies by just fishing and chatting with other players. Maybe that is actually a good thing in terms of like implementing into New Genesis. Now, it doesn't need to be like an essential activity, sure, because you know it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. But I believe like the same thing that is going on with like the mining system and the fishing system really do add some flair into the gameplay spice. Like it does spice up the activity in the game so that players will have something to look forward to instead of just like AFKing the lobby and it has nothing productive to be done at all. Yeah, that's just something, I guess. And yeah, and then the rest is probably very, very subjective. Maybe improvise the, you know, balance of the classes. Now, I don't really want to force players to think like the gameplay is really, really that bad. Sure, you know, like certain classes, for example, I've heard from other content creators is that the fighter class has lost its purpose once Slayer and Braver Katana existed. Because back then, when Braver Katana is pretty bad, I understand why they buffed that class because you know everybody loves that katana blade, I guess somehow, and I still don't understand why the Slayer is dealing so much damage. Like, if fighter is the kind of class that actually has the high risk and high reward kind of gameplay, then why does somebody who actually plays something like the Braver Katana would able to do high reward without any risk at all? Because you know, countering attacks is so easy with a katana. Not to mention they have this aimbot like skill, which is even making it even easier to play. That is why you've seen so many braver katanas out here instead of like, I don't know, braver bow players, which is probably sweating all the time. Not to mention the same thing goes on with like the other classes like Warrior Lancers, Spears, even like twin machine guns especially. They require like 10 times the effort to output the same amount of damage that is easily done by another classes. So yeah, you should buff all those weird little, you know, weapons that are not exactly have a purpose to exist, because since the game is all about DPS, it's just making them pretty stale, not gonna lie. So, you know, balancing the weapons are actually a thing that is, I know is going to be very, very complicated. But I understand the standpoint on why they wanted to do it in such a way that it streamlines a lot of stuff. But I do wish that we do have a much better balance than what currently we have at the moment. Because a lot of people miss the days where you have a lot of like weapon choices and combination of weapons that you can actually use back in the days of PSO1 or back in the days of PSU. And those creativities allows people to actually think tactically and play tactically. If you are able to actually implement something like that, I think it's going to be very, very beneficial. And I believe all these players who love those older games are going to appreciate more if you allow us to maybe change the way of us playing the game in terms of like, oh, is it like is there's like a, for example, a crafting system that changes the certain PA or technique, how they actually perform, make like totally like transform into another way of gameplay style. Maybe do some allow us to craft a weapon so that we can change the weapons percentage of the floor potency, but then we reduce the damage of it. Maybe allow us to play as a full-on tank build or full-on supporter build. Now, of course, these kind of builds are probably going to be very deficit in terms of damage, but maybe make them work with a certain crafting or maybe armor sets. You also increase the variety of potentials in armors and fixers, because I think weapons and fixer, because they are very stale at the moment. I know they wanted to play it safe and make all weapons viable, but since they already did this thing with the Worshmel weapons with 100% critical all the time, I believe they're definitely able to create like even more crazier potentials than just, oh, plus potency and plus critical percent. Like, come on, guys, you're more creative than this back in base PSO2. Just refer to that old game and just make weapons out of it. And that's all. I just wanted to talk about ways on how to save this game from, being a complete disaster. Yeah. So it's just my opinion, but I sometimes I just don't really want to talk about just bad things about the game. I feel like the game existed because the players loved their social features in the game, but you had to remember that you are titling the game Phantasy Star Online 2. Like, that Phantasy Star series has a long history of a lot of lore and a lot of sci-fi elements. Come on, guys, you can do better than this. Also, maybe in the future I hope that the story will be much more coherent, and I wish that the arcs will just improve beyond what Zafeto wanted us to be. But hey, who knows what's going to come up next year anyways. But here's to NGS becoming better, and that's all. Sayonara.